So even though I had the intention to try and love you and show up and do things together, there would still be residue of like, nah, this is not how it's done. If you're coming with a suggestion as the male or as the man, I need to maybe have the final say.
There was parts I knew, there was parts that I discovered through being with you. There was bits that I wasn't aware of as much. And that was kind of my, fight or flight kind of response to a lot of things through therapy as well, that I don't need to run away every time.
Hello guys, welcome back to another video. And today we are talking about how our childhood traumas have played out in our marriage.
Or trauma. It doesn't necessarily have to be childhood, it could just be trauma.
Or traumas, it's not even childhood to be honest with you, it's traumas. So I guess I'll start with mine. My formative years, what I saw was
formative.
So like when I was little, just childhood, just being...
Okay, not everyone knows what formative is.
What is formative? Is it like 0 to 5? Formative is just when you're little. So it's just what I had. Okay. What I can remember growing up. I was pretty oblivious to just the setup of family because my reality was just in our household. So I didn't really know that certain things was affecting maybe how I might outlook my relationships, like moving forward. So kind of discovering girls and stuff, what I saw around family dictated how I responded to people around me. And the truth be told is that I thought that it was impossible to be in a monogamous relationship. Culturally, you'd go to parties and your uncle will ask you, how many girlfriends do you have? It was normal to promote having more than one. So I think deep down, I've always wanted to be steady with my person. However, the home culture, family culture, and then the social culture, like the environment, like where I grew up, friends and just the environment, that was just the number one thing that, it is near on impossible to be with one particular person. And I felt dragged along by that, to be honest with you, like deep down. But where the culture supported it, I felt like it was acceptable. So there was always an internal conflict, but the culture separated it. So now fast forward into us getting together and then me wanting to be committed and wanting to actually be married. The 30 years plus of living that way, of thinking in that way, it played out in how we did things and how I responded to. So there was, all right, so let me actually just go through, let me just give context and go through some of the unhealthy thought patterns. One, there was no distinguishing between male and female friends. In my head, everybody is fine and everything is cool. So there was no boundary lines between things that are appropriate in the context of a relationship and out of a relationship.
But how is that your trauma? How is that your trauma? How is you traumatized by that?
Because the truth be told is that a lot of the endeavors, being promiscuous and being out there, I always felt a deep sense of discomfort, but then the feelings of this is enjoyable, like some of the actual, like endeavors might have been temporarily enjoyable, but I never was settled. I never felt settled, like actually deep down. Do you understand what I mean? So, and even the phrasing of trauma, like for me, even my understanding of trauma was something that was overtly bad. Like, you saw a family member get killed or you dropped from a building. So even my measure of what is traumatic was like way off. It was like way off. Do you understand what I mean? I just like trauma was, so because my measure of trauma was so extreme, because things that I was actually living through a traumatic way of being, I didn't realize it was even traumatic. It was celebrated. So then that's where the conflict was. Like, why do you not feel at peace? But this is meant to bring you, this is what men do. They're hunter gatherers, you know. Yeah, so I saw it. You like, even in the household I was brought up, and my dad always let me know that, look, your mum is one of 3, you know. So even the primary example was showing me that this is not possible to do, you know. But I could see by looking at my mum that this is causing like conflict. Do you understand what I mean?
So how did that show up in our marriage?
Because when actually we got together and then we decided to walk together, because my template of it's not possible for 2 people to actually do this in a committed way, even though I wanted to do it, I just can't see how this is going to work. I can't see how this is actually going to be possible, because my parents haven't managed to do it. The people around me haven't managed to do it. And these are people that I identify with closely. Do you understand what I mean?
But that was outside of the marriage. That's not inside the marriage. That was before you decided to get married, right?
It was.
So the question will be, how did marriage heal that?
How did marriage heal that?
Yeah, so how did it show up in the marriage? You're still talking about outside of the marriage.
So how did it show up in the marriage?
Yeah.
So in the marriage, there were still some views that were counterproductive to what a godly marriage was going to be. So for example, you have what you do, I have what I do, and the only thing I'm going to show you is the good things. That's it. You're not going to see any type of perceived weakness. You're not gonna rule or try and control me. You know, so even though I respected the fact that obviously we got together doing business, so we already had that relationship where we're going backwards and forwards and we're working together. But for some reason, I believe that in the context of marriage, that working together, that's where it stops. Do you understand what I mean? So even though I had the intention to try and love you and show up and do things together, there would still be residue of like, nah, this is not how it's done. Do you understand what I mean? Like, this is, you know, if you're coming with a suggestion as the male or as the man, I need to maybe have the final say, you know, or what you're saying, I get it, but really and truly for it to have strong validity, it's got to come from me first. And then you have to co-sign it afterwards. Do you understand what I mean? So rather than being a flow where there's seasons where we're working together, I input, you input, we decide together, we work together. That's how it showed up, because what I had witnessed was quite a stiff hierarchy. This is how it's like, and then you have to toe in line, and that's it, you know? So that's how it showed up in our marriage. However, I was still pretty early on in my faith walk when we got married. You know, I had given my life when we got married, but I was early on. So even discovering even what a biblical marriage was, I had heard little scraps of it, but I didn't know how God intended us to actually be in marriage, you know, like the principles. And I think one of the ones that stood out to me is, you know, like the example of marriage is how Christ loved the church, you know? And so when I thought about, okay, how does Christ love the church? You know, gave his life for it. And I suppose giving your life is not an actual, like, I need to go outside and like die for you. But giving your life meaning that all of the things that I think that it should be, that needs to die. I need to give what I believe my life is, that idea that needs to die off.
So what changed practically, do you think?
Okay, so here's what changed practically. Boundaries was a big one. Boundaries, not just with other females, but with other people. I think I I stopped listening or aligning myself too closely with other people that didn't have a positive view of marriage. Because even though sometimes people might say things in jest, those things can sit on your heart sometimes. Little, you hear it. Oh, who wears the trousers? Oh, what time is it? Oh, you going home now? The missus going to be unhappy? Oh, you know, a huge one as well was like, obviously, like you met me deep into my car stuff, and even there was like a kind of like a running joke around some friends that once you get married or into a relationship, the car is the first thing to get the chop. Do you understand what I mean? So hearing all of those things, even though I knew what I felt, I knew what I believed to be true about us, it's still, when we're now having normal and healthy disagreements in a relationship, which is just normal, it was like, okay, is that thing that the people are talking about? Do you understand what I mean? Okay, here it is. Like you've got one eye kind of squinting, almost bracing yourself for that or that crash that people are speaking about. So one practical thing is, it's not like I just did like an extreme cut, but I just listened to people's speech that wasn't really in support of marriage. And I suppose there was a bit of grace that I added to them, because the revelation that I've got now, you might not have it yet. So it wasn't like, you know, you married, that's it, block and delete. But it was now just identifying. And obviously my spirit bed witness to certain things that felt, you feel it, you know, like when there was certain little underhanded comments, I would feel it. In the beginning, what I'll try and do is suppress those feelings, and then I would blame myself. Like, you're being too sensitive. You're being a bit too, you're being sensitive. Like, why is that? But then what I started to do, that was Holy Spirit nudging me to the fact that something isn't right. But then even following Holy Spirit, following anybody, following anything really was difficult, apart from you follow your family. So even following the voice of God, that was a difficult thing to do as well. Difficult because, you know, you're taught to follow a particular order and lean on your own understanding. Like, you know, you're taught to just go to school, go to uni, do this, do that. It's very methodical. But as I began to learn that the kingdom of God doesn't require you to, it required you to be fluid to hear what he has to say. So that, again, I'm getting through that, having to learn to be fluid in hearing God. But I began to learn what that feeling was, and that was an unction of the Holy Spirit that, something is not particularly right about this particular conversation. I don't think I should be in this conversation. When there's certain like circles, I don't think I should be here, because now what I'm walking with is now is woken up. It's alive now. So now conversations and comments and things that once was like water for ducks back was a bit like, yeah, this doesn't feel comfortable. So one, I paid close attention to the things that were counter marriage. You know. Two, I then began to view relationships.
Well, you didn't get rid of people.
No, I think I just
adjusted the amount of time that you'd spent.
I think time, and I think one really good thing that I learned to do was steer conversations into something that's a bit more.
But you've always done that.
I have, but then I think there's a more of an intentionality in this particular, because the truth be told is that sometimes when there were conversations unfavorable to women, at one point, even whether I felt uncomfortable or not, I'd giggle along, because you don't know how to
manage that.
You don't know how to manage that. Do you understand what I mean? So, that was, I would say, probably the main practical thing. I think another thing as well, which that took a bit of time, was reframing and looking at the relationships with women outside of the marriage, you know. And again, coming from where I was coming from, everybody's friends, everybody's friendly. But then noticing that, you know, you have to protect your marriage. And again, my idea of trauma or an attack was very extreme. So to me, if there's not somebody texting me or doing anything overtly extreme, it means that they're not a danger. So my view of a threat was just quite relaxed. Do you understand what I mean? Then I began to realize the impact that if you leave the doors open to your marriage, both with males and females, it can filter in, you know. Oh, you know, little comments. Then I began to learn that it's part of protecting your marriage by not entertaining certain conversations.
I suppose it's learning how to be that godly person in the, you know, like it says about being priest over your household. It's being able to guide the household in God's practices, like what he would want marriage to really look like, rather than our perspective.
Yeah. So
I think I'll kind of give a little bit of I definitely had trust issues, commitment issues, even though I always wanted a marriage. I knew I was a wife before I was actually a wife.
do you know what's funny? I didn't mean to cut you, but you said it to me.
Mm.
As soon as we began dating, you said, you said, look,
I knew I was a wife.
you said, look, honestly,
Yeah.
I'm a wife.
Yeah.
You
Because
know.
of what I bring.
Mm.
Because of how much I pour in. But I knew also, I mean, there was parts I knew. There was parts that I discovered through being with you. There was bits that I wasn't aware of as much. Being in a committed relationship and having commitment issues looks really wonky. Because your first instinct is, yeah, let me get out of this when it gets tough, you know, let me walk away, and that was kind of my, you know, fight or flight kind of response to a lot of things. And through your consistency, that helped me and God helped me to see through therapy as well, that I don't need to run away every time it doesn't mean that everyone's going to walk away, you know. And I think if you get into a marriage and a lot of people have walked away from you, or you've experienced a lot of rejection, that could be your trauma that you've walked through. That was my trauma. My trauma was that anyone that I loved or cared about was going to walk away eventually. And there was no room for me feeling hurt, you know. And I quickly learned, I think, through being in our relationship, that you can feel hurt and still be in a relationship. You don't have to walk out of the door, you know. Not everybody is gonna run away from you. But therapy was the thing that helped me to bring my whole self into this relationship, because before I was always holding a little part back, because I was like, just in case he walks away, just in case this doesn't work out, because I'd been married before, and experienced the walking away, or, you know, like even you could be in a relationship and the person's physically there, but emotionally and mentally they've checked out a long time, and you're trying to hold on. So yeah, there was a lot of brokenness in my heart. There was a lot of not trusting. And I think God just, showed me how to love you, even when you wasn't looking at me and also respecting me or my voice, because you'd been taught that you don't necessarily respect a woman's voice. So I think God gave me that patience and that tenderness in my heart. Not necessarily I showed it always, but in my heart I had that tenderness towards you that made me see you and see the heart of who you were, rather than what was showing up all of the time. And that was hard, because even the children that, you know, I've had from previous relationships, they were like looking at it was like, yeah, we don't know mum like that. Mum's like she'll tell you about yourself, or she'll walk away or do something drastic. And I had to learn that, yeah, that's not always the way. So I do believe very strongly that, you know, marriage kind of helps to magnify things that are hidden because you're constantly with each other. Well, in our case, we were because of business and just doing life, and we just enjoyed each other's company. So everything was, you know, us just working through things. And even if it was we're going to be sleeping on the seam of the bed, we still worked through it, which was very different to what I'd ever seen or experienced in my own previous situations. So, yeah, I think there's lots of areas of ourselves that along the journey of marriage, because it's a journey, you discover yourself differently. God unfolds who you are more as you get comfortable with your partner, like as you become yourself, you know, realizing that I don't have to hide parts. I can bring everything to the table and that person still loves me regardless, which is different.
I think as you're speaking, there's so many. I think before we press record, I was thinking through things. And as you're speaking, there's so many things that, I don't know, you know, my eyes are a bit glazy because I've just realized how much God has been working in us, like through us. You know, there was trust. When you mentioned trust, I just remembered that trust was a
Major.
big thing for me as well.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't trust. I thought I trusted, but my trust was weird. It had like different little pockets.
Is that sections?
Had different sections.
Yeah.
Had
like a almost like a bento box.
Literally, no. It was
like
literally.
I trust you with this bit,
but not.
But that bit over there, no. We'll just forget that bit's there.
You know.
Yeah.
Because then again, obviously, like you hang on to what the figureheads in your life say to you, you know, and I can remember, like, you know, my dad, God rest him, saying to me, like, obviously we spent a lot of time together, you know, like doing things like repairing the car, going on journeys. And I remember him saying to me, listen, never ever lose your head to a woman. You know, that's what, like, obviously he probably told me lots of things, but there are sometimes, so you got to be careful what you say to your kids, because there are key things out of all of the millions of things, there are key things that stick. Never lose your head. And then he went on to explain, you know, always learn how to cook yourself. And it wasn't so you can serve. It was so that you wouldn't be held over a barrel.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? So hearing that, I'm like, these are people now to be careful of. Women are people to be, because at any minute they're gonna
let you down.
They're gonna turn on you. They're gonna let you down. They're gonna turn on you. So instead of now being in an intimate relationship, and even my idea of intimacy was like off. I'm like, I thought intimacy was reserved for one particular thing, but I didn't know that you can be in a marriage and you can still not trust. Do you understand what I mean? Like, you know, and it's like, look, I don't trust this part of me. I don't trust to give you and make you see this part. This bit is fine. You can see these other practical bits, but the bits that I feel really precious and wonky about,
yeah, that's for me.
That is for me, because what I know of, or what I thought I knew of, is that if you share this, that's it. There's going to be a walking away, and you're somewhat taught to, culturally, West African, Ghanaian culture, you're kind of taught to, you got to front certain things out, you know. So even sharing my feelings, I'm like, what do you do? I thought,
would you do that?
What do you do? Just come home, start crying, yeah, like just. Do you understand what I mean? Like just come and start bawling, you know. So you learn just to keep everything locked up in little.
I mean, I learned the same thing.
In little lockers, and I think it can only be but God. that had to be at the center of our marriage
Mm.
that will begin to peel these onion skin, all of these layers
off.
off,
Yeah.
you know. And even another thing as well, I didn't want to go on like a runaway train, but another thing as well, I thought, again, you got to be careful of what you hear in the world,
Mm.
because little like what seem to be seemingly harmless traditions and comments, the 7-year itch. So then again, you're thinking,
Yeah.
yo, it's on.
Listen, I had the 5-year itch. Forget about the 7-year itch. As soon as we get into 5, I'm like, nah, he's gonna be gone.
Like,
so let me get in there first.
Yeah.
Let
So
me,
you kind of,
so you start doing like Buckaroo.
yeah.
For those of you that knows what Buckaroo is, yeah, you start doing like trying to get rid, or
Yeah,
you try and start pushing. Okay, if I
Yeah.
push, then maybe you'll just disappear.
It's a bit like, kid, you know, when you go to pop a balloon
Yeah.
and then you kind of
Like,
turn
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you
like-
like let me just
Yeah.
let me control the
Let me
impact.
control. Yeah, so I definitely think for me, I had control issues. So my control, I would say the control issues that I was struggling with made me, everyone I cared about, really like wrap them up in cotton wool and put them in a little glass container. Like I didn't want anything to harm them, but that was hurting them. It was hurting them, stopping them from being able to breathe. You know, even with you, I was very like, I don't want no one to hurt him. I don't want no, you know, and I was just like, no, I gotta like, and it took a therapist that showed me she really cared to break that down and give me tools to cope with when this emotion comes out. Because, you know, the realistic thing is these emotions still come up. They don't disappear. It's just learning not to act on those childhood stuff. So they still come, but then you're like, and the more you don't act on it, is the more you begin to realize that you're actually healed. You're not like, I'm actually not feeling this as much, and it's not showing up in the wrong places or the wrong spaces. It's allowing me to have the relationship that God desired for me. It's allowing me to talk to people when I still feel a bit weird, like, oh, if they're going to do that. Then you realize, they're not going to do that. They actually really like me. They enjoy my company. And God shows you what's beautiful and wonderful about you. And then, that just kind of changes your world.
I think being able to like have time, even we converse all of the time. Not that we just converse on camera. But I think upon reflection, even how we met and our love for business, that now thinking about it was God's way of even training us for marriage down the line. Because think about this, there were times where we would disagree, but we still had staff and people underneath us that we had to make sure that their lives were sorted.
Yeah, that they could pay their bills.
So regardless of how we felt together, we still showed up.
Yeah.
And if we think about it now, it's exactly the same as in our marriage. Like it was like there were times where, you know, even on the way to the office, we might disagree. But as soon as we walked in, it was like,
lights, camera, action.
Yeah, morning everybody. Morning everybody. How's everybody?
The fake smile.
But I think it's an illustration, even biblically, of like love your neighbor, because love, and even my framing of even what love is had to change. I thought love was how you felt, and I thought, if I don't feel that feeling for you anymore, that may be when things
love
are over.
Love is an action.
So it's an action. So we had to turn up, and we had to like continue to do things, and we had to pick up the phone, and we had to encourage the other people. You know, like, come on, we had to bring that to, and now years down the line, that's exactly what it is. There are some times where we don't agree. There are some times where we don't get on. But you know what we're going to do? We're still going to decide to keep on moving forward exactly as we
And
did.
not digging our heels in.
And not digging our heels in, you know, exactly as we did when we had people looking up towards us. So thinking about it now, that was training all of those years ago to now what we use to our advantage, where we're like, right, you know, yeah, we acknowledge the fact that, you know, we might be irritated or irritable, or we might be hurt by something. But then we're like, right, we're not going anywhere. We've made this covenant commitment to each other to walk through life together, you know. So yeah, I think that's how God definitely has showed up, you know, and in many other like ways as well. But yeah,
Yeah, and you can be triggered by anything. I think you did something the other day and I said, babe, can you stop doing that? Because it's kind of triggering me.
that's mad though, because you know what happens sometimes?
Yeah.
You can have a trigger table tennis match
Yeah.
because I triggered you,
Then
you
I
being
triggered
triggered me.
you.
Then now me being probably triggered from the trigger, basically probably set off another trigger. So now we're just triggerdometry.
Trigger fest.
It's trigger
Trigger fest.
trigger fest.
Nah, we have that moments, but then we have to stop the spiral. And I think the way I stop the spiral, I think sometimes even that triggers you, is I'll go read the words, worship music, because that's the only way I know how that works. You know, I get centered in God. I can't do it any other way. And doing marriage, like with all of the things that were against us, it took Holy Spirit. It has taken and will continue to take Holy Spirit to guide us through. You can't do marriage without God.
Yeah, I think in the future video, I think we'll take time to actually, our journey, we live our lives, and sometimes when we meet new people, because obviously in ministry, like we now meet new people, and sometimes when people begin to get close and we begin to share, which is like a little bit rare, our stories,
Yeah, our story don't make no sense.
yeah, you know,
it has no if you placed all of our stuff on paper, his and mine, you would not see how we would be together.
yeah. So
I think only is that I think the main common denominator is our morals are very similar, and our family values are very similar, but everything else is very different.
yeah, but I think we have to probably do a whole, no, seriously, I think like, because yeah, I think I could, if I was into screenplay, I reckon if I could direct a movie, I would watch our thing on Netflix. Or whatever.
I don't know about Netflix.
No, or wherever, or film, or whoever does stuff. But yeah, but I think it's just to say that, but God, because we don't have any other.
Yeah, it don't make no sense.
You know,
doesn't make it. But as God was saying to me on Saturday and Sunday, my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways. So what doesn't make sense, he makes sense. You know, so I think leaning into him, even the fact that you wasn't saved when we met.
I wasn't. I thought
I was totally not interested in going to church.
Yeah.
But my heart was still with Jesus.
Yeah.
So it's hard to walk away from your friend.
Yeah. You might get a bit distant, haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah.
But that's one friendship that you can't replicate. You can sometimes try to.
That relationship is there's no other relationship in the world that is deep as that.
Not even us.
Nope.
You know. So I guess we'll probably end it here.
Yeah.
And we probably will do, I think.
No, we will.
Yeah,
we will.
Yeah.
We've got loads more to talk about, but we're not going to do it all in one video.
No. But thank you guys for watching. Remember to like the video, comment on it,
comment and share it,
share it.
because there's always somebody that needs like encouragement in their marriage. Maybe they're thinking about marriage, I mean, we're not saying like, oh, be traumatized. Try and deal with some of your stuff before, because it's a lot harder, you know. But sometimes if you find yourself in marriage and you've got trauma, it's possible to heal. A lot of people would argue and differ that, and say that no, you need to be single, so they get rid of their partner just to heal. But I believe that God is a healer. So if your partner broke their leg or their arm, you're not going to walk away from them, or you're not going to, you know, you would, I think, be mindful, if you can, support them. I mean, thankfully you was able to support me through it, but it wasn't easy.
So maybe what we might do, we might actually do a follow-up video.
Yeah.
You know,
supporting each other through.
Yeah. You know,
yeah.
We'll pray about it. But I think maybe what might be
we'll do a second video on how to support your partner.
Because I think it's good saying it, but I think, like, you know, what was helpful for us was the practical ways that
the practicality is important.
You know, so yeah. So thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.